What's up, guys? I'm DJ Cobb97, and I've survived 1,000 days in hardcore Minecraft. Join me as I walk you through my journey and tell the story of how I survived for 1,000 days in this world. From losing my first hardcore world and having to start over with nothing, all the way to my first 1,000 days milestone. This was my first hardcore world, where I survived for 709 days. This was the world that taught me how to play hardcore Minecraft. But then one day I hit the ground too hard and it was all over. Everything I'd worked for, gone in an instant. A couple days later, I was ready to jump back in and start again, and that's how my current hardcore world was born. That all took place over one stream lasting 10 hours. I managed to do everything from finding shelter and getting armor to defeating the Ender Dragon and finding an Elytra, all in one go. It was clear to me that I had come a long way since the start of my hardcore journey. When I started my first hardcore world, this one, that was actually my first time beating Minecraft in single player. I didn't realize it at the time, but playing in my old world took me from a scared Minecraft player with no skills to a hardcore beast who beats the game in one day. I'm certainly no speedrunner, but I have to appreciate the progress I've made. My next move was to get my armor fully enchanted. I figured I could either do all the work myself, or I could outsource the labor to some local workers. So I started pushing villagers down a hole where I then forced them to incestuously breed more villagers. All the while, I exploited their labor, forcing them to become librarians in order to get me the enchanted books I required. You'll come to find I'm not a fan of villagers. They're extremely uncooperative, and to go even further, they're spiteful, lazy, and stupid. Naturally, I had to make an example out of a couple of them. I was able to get most of the important enchantments like unbreaking, mending, and protection from my employees. Because of my disdain for working with their kind, I decided I would get the rest of my enchantments the old-fashioned way, using an enchanting table. It seemed like the perfect time to build an XP farm. So I built the easiest/best XP farm I knew how to build at the time, an Enderman farm. I went back and forth between killing Endermen and using the enchanting table until all my armor and tools were enchanted up to my satisfaction. It was time to move on to my next most pressing issue. I barely had any firework rockets. I had plenty of sugarcane, but no gunpowder. The logical next step was to build a mob farm. I went with a basic water flushing design. At the very end, I planted a little bit of sugarcane on top of the farm. Now that I had an elytra and unlimited rockets, I had truly harnessed the power of flight. Now, if I could just get my hands on a totem of undying, I would become truly godlike. So I went to an outpost to get Bad Omen, and I triggered my first raid.
I killed the golem, damn it.
It was time to upgrade my diamond armor, so I went to the Nether and began strip mining for ancient debris. It was actually pretty boring, so go watch episode 2 of this series if you really want to see that footage. Once I was fully decked out in Netherite, it was time for my next move, to begin the search for an ancient city. I searched far and wide. I went inside of giant mountain after giant mountain. I found countless deep dark biomes. But none of them had an ancient city. I spent so many hours looking for one. At this point, I was raging super hard. But I knew that that's how it goes in this game. You gotta just push through it and not give up. Finally, after 8 hours straight of searching for a city, I dug right into one.
Oh my god! Can't believe it, dude. Wait, is he smelling me? Oh no, did I just spawn another warden? I might die.
After looting the rest of the city and spawning 8 wardens in the process, I proudly headed home with my new Swift Sneak 3 pants. I knew I was going to be building a lot of farms in this world. Having Swift Sneak was going to save me a ton of time. The next thing I did was build an iron farm. It went pretty smooth and I only had to punish 1 villager. Next, I returned to my mob farm. I placed trapdoors on the ceiling of each spawning platform so it would only spawn creepers and spiders, meaning I'd get higher rates of gunpowder. I also added to the sugarcane on top, building a fully automatic farm. Next up was a wither skeleton farm. However, I had to do one last thing before building it. Fight the wither. I have a tradition in my Minecraft worlds where I always get my first 3 wither skulls the old-fashioned way by killing wither skeletons in a nether fortress. Once I get the 3 skulls, I fight the Wither. In my last world, I fought the Wither underground, which was way too easy. This time I was going to fight it out in the open for my first time ever. I was a little bit nervous. I did not want to lose this world. Once I got my 3rd skull, I headed to the battlefield where I would fight my first Wither. I spent the rest of episode 4 building several farms, some big, some small. I started with a Wither skeleton farm in the Nether, designed by ENX04. Then I moved on to an automatic Hoglin farm. Next, I built a very simple snow farm, followed by a simple Wither Rose farm in the end, designed by ENX04. I finished the episode with a Shulker farm, also designed by ENX04. At this point, I'd been living in this world for over 150 days. I was off to a great start with all the farms I'd built, but 150 days in, I was still living out of a cave I dug in the side of a mountain. That little cave had served me well, but I needed an upgrade. It was time to build some sort of starter base. My world was full of all these farms I'd built, but I hadn't done any actual builds. Building does not come naturally to me. I hope to eventually get to a point where I could just freestyle builds, but I was not ready for that yet. I started a new world in creative mode and started messing around designing a house. Once I came up with something I could tolerate, I went back to my hardcore world and started gathering materials. Then I spent the rest of episode 5 knocking out the build. In the end, this was the finished product. I was happy with how it turned out. Someday, I'll build a much bigger and better base, but I was just glad to have a place to sleep and store all my items. Now I could get back to building more of the farms I was going to need. I went to the Nether and built 2 more farms, designed by my boy ENX04. I built a simple portal-based gold farm, and a short distance away, I built a powerful piglin bartering farm. I then returned to the overworld and started digging a deep hole. That's where I would build a versatile tree farm, designed by ENX04. The reason I built it underground was because I had a future plan to cover it up with a build. I built a nether fungus farm I got from Zisuma Void, which would work in tandem with my tree farm for growing nether trees. I had 2 more farms to build, and I saved the hardest ones for last. Next up was a moss bone meal farm designed by the legendary Ilmango. This might be the most complex farm I've ever built. There's a lot of moving pieces, and the thing produces a lot of bone meal. Between the tree farm, the nether fungus farm, and the bone meal farm, I had myself a whole wood farming district. For the last farm, I headed to the ocean and pulled up one last ENX04 tutorial in order to build a stacking raid farm. The raid farm worked fantastically, however, I wasn't completely safe when using it. Occasionally, Vexes would get spawned by an evoker. Vexes are no joke in hardcore, so I went the extra mile and built 2 Vex suppressors that would trap Vexes in boats and trick the game into not spawning anymore. I had to capture 2 evokers from raids and place them in the suppressors. Aside from 1 difficult creeper, this went relatively smoothly. I had so many farms in my world at this point. But my world had a problem. There was no immersion, no character. Aside from all the industry I'd set up, the only build in this world was my house. I needed to build something cool. Remember how I built my tree farm in a hole in the ground? I needed to cover that up with some kind of sick build that would also serve as an entrance to my wood district. While brainstorming for ideas, I kept landing on a giant tree, but not just any tree. I've always been an insanely massive fan of The Legend of Zelda. Ocarina of Time is my favorite game of all time. The mission was to come up with my own custom build of the great Deku tree from the game. I'd show you a picture of the real Deku tree, but I'm afraid Nintendo would send ninjas to my house to kill me, like they usually do every time some kid dying of cancer shows their intellectual property in a YouTube video. Can I even say Zelda? Can Nintendo come after me for that? I spent a day in a creative world practicing for this build. Once I felt comfortable, I started on my Deku tree in the hardcore world. Halfway through, I thought it looked like crap, so I tore it all down and started over. This build was quite a massive grind lasting several hours. But after a whole day of working on it, my Deku tree had turned out awesome. The addition of this build was already making my world feel less empty. I loved how it looked next to my house, and I started having a vision of how I could start filling in more of the area with other builds. And that's what I decided to do. I popped into a creative world to try and come up with something cool. Inspiration struck, and I ended up designing a barn. During episode 8, I built the barn in my world right across from my house. I wanted to add some functionality to the build, and right around the time I streamed this episode, ENX04 had just come out with a brand new farm design, a fully automatic wool farm. I went on a mission to obtain every color of dye in the game so I could have every color of sheep. And then I built the farm directly underneath my barn. In all my time messing around in creative worlds, I designed a pretty cool windmill. I wanted to build it in the same area of my world, but I needed something to spruce up the area and make the builds feel more connected. So I gathered enough resources to build the windmill and to connect every build with fancy pathways. Sorry about that. By the way, if you do enjoy any of the music you hear in this video, it was all produced by myself, and you can listen to it on Apple Music or Spotify or wherever the hell else you people listen to music. I had just recently updated my world to 1.20, and in my travels I had found a cherry grove where I obtained some cherry saplings. I built a gazebo at the center of my area using the cherry wood and leaves, and I decided that was the perfect place to display my dragon egg. I then strapped in for an extremely tedious grind, planting a massive wheat field around my windmill and barn. This took real-world days, but in the end, this is what the area looked like. I had been planting wheat for a very long time. I needed a break. So I raided an ocean monument. It wasn't my first rodeo, so it went super smooth and I got lots of sponges. Then I went to the Nether and raided a bastion for my first time ever. I was super paranoid and it wasn't a very eventful trip, other than finding the snout armor trim. I wanted to see a bit more action, so at this point I decided to respawn the Ender Dragon for a rematch. I also had a rematch with the Wither. It was almost day 500. I was making a lot of headway in this new world, and I was eons ahead of where I was at this point in my first hardcore world. On the night of day 499, I watched some fireworks as I reflected on everything I'd accomplished in this world. I watched the sunrise on day 500. I had recently come across a new design for a creeper farm. I already had my mob farm, but I knew that this new design would produce way more gunpowder. So I built the creeper farm, 5 layers tall. I started making a sugarcane farm on top. But shortly after I started, for some reason, I decided to go on a side quest to build a froglight farm. That was a bit of an adventure. If you want to see how it happened, then watch episode 10 of my hardcore series. I went back and built a 5-layer sugarcane farm. I made 3 fully automatic layers and 2 extra layers for manual harvesting, just in case I ever needed the extra. And then I spent a ton of time getting materials to make an absurd amount of red and white concrete so I could do this. Let's back up just a bit. Something bad happened while I was working on the sugarcane farm. Something that I needed to learn from. I had been dealing with phantoms nonstop. I had this thing back then where I pretty much refused to sleep in my hardcore world except for special occasions. This meant that I was constantly dealing with phantoms. I was taking out wave after wave while building the sugarcane farm. As soon as I exterminated one wave, another one would spawn before I could catch my breath. Eventually, I snapped. I tried to ignore them. That didn't work. I couldn't get a single thing done with the constant barrage. I decided to say screw it and just sleep, but the phantoms wouldn't even let me lay in a bed for 2 seconds. In a hasty rage, I grabbed my bed and jumped off the farm. I started plummeting at top speed toward the water. There was a tiny little island on the ocean. I decided to land there in order to sleep away the phantoms, but I came in way too hot. I made it until day 548 without popping a single totem. In my old world, I would have popped 6 or 7 by now. This was a good reminder to never get too comfortable in my hardcore world. Imagine if I hadn't had that totem in my hand right then. This world would have ended the same way as my last one.
What?
I wanted a really big project to work on. Something long-term that I'd probably be working on for thousands of days. I've always wanted to make a perimeter. A full-size perimeter in the ballpark of 300 blocks by 300 blocks. I don't even know what I would use it for, but I wanted to have the experience of doing it. This is kind of the same thought process that put me and my wife on the path to draining an ocean monument on our old server. Making a perimeter requires the use of various redstone machines, which themselves require an ungodly amount of slime blocks. Before I could even think about starting on a perimeter, I'd need a slime farm. So I headed to the nearest swamp I knew of. I dug a big hole in the ground, and that's where I put my farm. At the end of the day, I had myself an extremely powerful slime farm. And then I decided to build a similarly overpowered gold farm just because. Now, the spot that I chose for my perimeter project is in large part covered by water. I would need to drain a lot of that water through the use of machines as well as manually. To prepare for this, I went on an ocean monument raiding spree until I had stacks and stacks of sponges. Now I was just about ready to start the project. Let me make it clear that I will not even be coming close to finishing this project in this video. This perimeter will take me thousands of days. I just wanted to get started on it. So here's a montage of me placing sand walls, running water draining machines, TNT flying machines, and draining flooded caves. Here are a couple embarrassing moments that occurred during all that.
Ah! Ah! Oh my god. Oh! I popped a totem. Totem number 2 on day 858. I need to write that down. Ah! Woo!
All that, and I've barely made a dent in the project. I haven't even finished 2 of the 4 trenches of the outline of the perimeter. This is going to be an even bigger undertaking than I thought. I was ready to move on to something else. I would return later to continue work on this project, but I needed a break. One day I was giving a tour of my world for one of the homies in my stream chat. I was showing off my various farms and builds. I had just finished showing off my raid farm when my Vex suppressor failed. I've since referred to this event as Vexageddon.
Yo, are they still raids still spawning? I thought the farm was supposed to turn off. Whoa, whoa. Are they coming after me now? Whoa! What was that? What? What's going on? Oh my god. I've never had this happen. Yo, did my suppressors stop working? Yo, what's going on? This is so cursed. Why aren't they coming after me? Okay. Ah! Like, they were working perfectly for... Whoa, my golem! That's why! I need to spawn another golem. Oh my god. Yo, that explains it.
I wanted to build something in the other dimensions besides the overworld. I had never really built in the Nether of the End, besides all my farms. My next couple projects would take place in the other dimensions, respectively. I've always been fascinated by bees in Minecraft. I had been wanting to make a bee farm for a while, but I didn't really need one, so I never got serious about it. But I feel like I've gotten to the point in this world where I can just do whatever I want, even if it's not practical. So I bred a few bees, and then I built a simple bee breeder so I could breed more. I built a small bee farm in my spawn chunks to get me the honeycomb required to make all the hives for the actual farm. Then I bred more bees. I randomly decided to fix the Vex suppressor in my raid farm, and then I bred more bees. Suddenly, it was time to hit the end where I had decided the build would be located. Before I started on the Nether project, I took a quick detour. I wanted to make a Hall of Totems, some kind of space where I could display the totems of undying I've popped in this world, as well as any I may subsequently pop in the future. I built a pedestal that would display a giant build of my custom totem made out of colored terracotta. Down underneath is where I put the Hall of Totems. If I need to expand it in the future, I can. I placed the 3 totems in item frames, each with a book explaining how the incident occurred. That was something I'd been thinking of doing for a while, so it was nice to check it off my to-do list. Now it was time to hit the Nether. I had actually planned out 2 small projects for this dimension. The first one on the list was a basalt farm. I built this in the middle of a lava ocean, where I drained a small area of lava. Now I had unlimited access to basalt. Maybe someday in the future I would need some. Next, I built a Nether vacation home. There wasn't much to it, and it was literally just for fun. I even put a respawn anchor inside purely as a flex, since those are useless in hardcore. I had now accomplished my goal of building in all 3 dimensions. I was fast approaching day 1000. I set up some fireworks shows in all 3 dimensions to prepare for the festivities. At this point, it was approximately day 975. I had 25-ish days to kill before the big milestone. It occurred to me that I hadn't raided a woodland mansion yet in this world. I had found 2 of them, but I'd been saving them for the right time. That time was now. And that only killed like one Minecraft day, so I decided to go work on the perimeter until right before day 1000. And then, finally, it was time. Day 999. My plan was to watch the sunrise on day 1000 before starting the festivities. This was the first thing to go wrong. It started pouring rain just a few minutes before sunrise. I was beyond pissed. After surviving 1000 days in hardcore, grinding out countless projects and massive farms, cheating death multiple times, this was the sweet, victorious day 1000 sunrise I got. This put me in an absolutely terrible mood. I'm actually embarrassed to admit how pissed off I was at the fact that Minecraft decided to rain on my parade. But that's just my luck in this stupid game. I proceeded to the end to start the fireworks. When I left the end and passed through the overworld to get to the Nether fireworks, I noticed it had stopped raining. At least now it wouldn't be raining for the overworld fireworks. I continued to the Nether. And then it was time for the overworld fireworks. I left the Nether to see that it was once again pouring rain. That's right, it stopped raining and then started raining again the same day, right when I was supposed to be watching fireworks. Minecraft is self-aware, and the game knew how important these festivities were to me. It knew how hard I had worked to survive 1000 days in hardcore. It watched and laughed when I died in my first hardcore world, and the game has been watching me grind my way to day 1000, all the while waiting to sabotage my celebration. Minecraft has had this planned since before I started this world. I was so pissed I couldn't even see straight. I could not believe that this game not only screwed me out of my epic sunrise, but now I would have to watch my fireworks show in the pouring rain, which physically doesn't even make any sense. I was raging hard. But it was day 1000 and the show had to go on. So I decided I would set off the fireworks anyway. I planned to set up another fireworks show for the next night so I could enjoy fireworks not in the pouring rain. But I was still so pissed. I had to do something to get this rage under control. That's when I had the best idea I've ever had in this world. Remember earlier in the video when I mentioned that I hate villagers? I started hatching up an idea. What if I took out my anger on an unsuspecting village? I felt like the Grinch when he was cooking up his plan to steal Christmas. I went ahead with the fireworks. I stood and watched them in the rain before getting a good night's sleep and then setting off the next day in search of a village.
Alright, well, here's where I'm killing everybody. Hey, motherfucker! Alright, who else is there? I'm on a murderous rampage. Who else wants it? Oh, what are you gonna do? Summon a golem? Yeah? Do it! I'll f*** your golem too! Ah! Ah! Who else is there? Anyone else? Oh, yeah? You're trying to shut the door, huh? Slam the door on my face, are you? Who else is there? Ah! You go to hell. Hey there! You think you can run? Alright, I think I got them all. Now for my impromptu second fireworks show. Why have I not done that before? That was the most cathartic thing I've ever done in my life. Is it about to rain again? You've got to be absolutely f***ing shitting my asshole. How can this be real?
Needless to say, I had to put off the fireworks show another night.
Looks like we have found the unlucky village. Come on, where are they? The other village must have phoned ahead. Yeah, I'm gonna let you just die off with my fire aspect. How'd that feel? Hey, you die just because of what you are. Nitwit!
Finally, on the night of day 1002, I got to watch the fireworks rain-free. And that's the story of how I survived for 1000 days in hardcore Minecraft. I've learned a lot playing in this world, and I've got a lot more to learn from it. I've come to love this world, even though not every single moment is sweet and not everything goes according to plan. I'm not a great builder. In fact, I'm not really good at this game by any metric, but I'm proud of what I've accomplished, and I hope to grow and improve myself as a player at the same time as I grow and improve this world. I suppose I must be at least skilled enough to have survived 1000 days in hardcore, which is a big win for me. Here's hoping I survive another 1000. Thank you for joining me on my epic adventure. If you like this video, you can watch episodes 1 through 15 of my hardcore series, which contain a lot more content than what I was able to show in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.